Welcome everyone to week 2 of our course. And this week, first of all, get started with your required readings of Chapter 3, Physical Education Curriculum Models, and Chapter 4, the Achievement-Based Physical Education Curriculum Model, or ABC model. And this is the model that you're going to use to develop your curriculum. And here's something to clarify that many students get confused with. Within the ABC model, there are 5 components of the model, which include all the aspects of curriculum design. However, the steps that you're going to take to meet these 5 components are different in the actual creation of a program curriculum. So we're completing the steps towards developing a program curriculum. So don't get confused between the overall ABC design components and those individual steps in creating a program curriculum. So this week, be sure you have your curricular groups determined as soon as possible because the completion of your step number 2 is going to depend on this. Hopefully you've begun to communicate with your classmates using those forms that I've provided and begin to arrange some groups. No more than 4 members per group. If you need more than that, you have to have my permission, and there are some other situations and circumstances that apply. Try to do this before the week ends because your group will need to work together to complete the final part of step number 2. So what about this step number 2? Step number 2 in the curriculum development process is defining your curriculum goals, and I have posted some written documentation for this step as well as a video to help you understand how to complete it. And here is where things begin to get a little bit complicated. The first part of this step will be completed individually, so each person needs to submit their own assignment. Once you have your group, you're going to work together with your group to complete the consensus building technique and rank the goals and then identify a final list of 10 goals to work with, making sure you have a balance of goals for all the learning domains. And this is where all of the goals from everyone in the group just simply get listed. So once you have your groups determined, everyone just line up their goals on a piece of paper in no particular order, and then each group member will individually rank those goals based on what they think the order of importance is. And once that's done, you're going to identify probably the top 10 goals that you'd like to work with and include in your curriculum. And I've included more on this in the step 2 presentation, but it's important to have your teams determined so you'll be able to complete that step and then submit it with your individual step number 2 assignment. And as I mentioned in the introduction, there are some challenges in developing and meeting with your final curricular team because there are some of you who teach at various grades, at various grade levels, who coach different sports or even coach at different levels. So keep this in mind when creating your groups. And let me backtrack a bit. Some of you still may have questions on this. Remember, the idea of all of this is to develop a realistic working program curriculum that you can actually apply to your real work setting. And to do this, you'll need to decide as a curricular team what direction you're going to take because all of your group members may have different backgrounds and different interests, and so you're going to need to work together to really kind of narrow down your focus. If your group is made up of mainly high school coaches, for example, you may want to focus on an athletics curriculum for high school. And this should include the expectations for all sports offered within the high school and not only the one that you teach. I have in the past offered some flexibility for those groups who coach uniquely different sports, though, so if you have questions, be sure you ask. If you're focusing on a high school program, though, you will need to include all the sports offered at that high school. It's a complete high school curriculum. You cannot create a curriculum for one high school sport. It needs to be all-encompassing. However, if you're focusing your program on a community college athletic program, then you can focus on one sport. So if your curriculum team is made up of mainly community college baseball coaches, for example, you can develop a realistic program curriculum for baseball only at the community college level. And so it's up to the curricular team as a whole to make that determination as to what they're going to focus their final curriculum on. If your group is made up of mainly teachers, you'll need to select a particular grade level or group to design your curriculum for. And this means you're not developing a program curriculum for one specific grade. You must address all the grades within a particular level. So for elementary, your program curriculum may include grades K through 5, for example. For middle school, grades 6 through 8. And for high school, it needs to include grades 9 through 12. Again, it's up to the curricular team as a whole to make this determination. And although you're developing a real curriculum, I don't want you to identify your specific school, your actual school where you're currently employed. So just develop a fictional name so that we can keep your actual school anonymous. You'll want to give your program or school this fictional name, but develop all steps to realistically mimic an actual program, preferably your current professional program if possible, if that makes sense. Hopefully, This provides a little more info and guidance on the process of completing the curriculum project. So view the Curriculum Development Step 2 presentation and be sure you read through the assignment guidelines for more information. If you have questions, feel free to ask. There are 2 parts to that, remember, the individual goal list and the collaborative consensus building technique to rank your goals and finalize a list of 10. Make sure that you have a balance and a good goal representation for all the different learning domains. So avoid having 6 of your 10 goals focused on the psychomotor domain, for example. Your final curricular team should be determined by the end of the week. If you're not included in a group, you will either be placed in a group, at which point group members, please be flexible and understanding in working with some individuals who have been placed in your group if they've kind of been outliers, or you may be given the option of completing the curriculum project individually. While I have allowed this in the past, I will not suggest this or really encourage this because there is a lot of work to complete this individually. And most people who complete this by themselves not only have difficulty, but rarely produce quality work. Lastly, take a look at the group meeting minutes form. Now, although you're not expected to discuss step 2 and complete the meeting minutes form this week, I do want you to understand what is required when you finish that form. So that will do it for this week. As usual, let me know if you have any questions.